the game, win at life, have no shame.
Hey, welcome to the Timesmith podcast. Is it true for you that sometimes does it feel like maybe you're just going through the motions and you don't really know where to optimize or where to prioritize? Today's episode, we're going to talk about a really cool tool called the Freedom Compass from Michael Hyatt. I call it the Passion Proficiency Matrix. And what we're going to do is we're going to figure out the tasks you have. We're going to graph them on this simple 2x2 matrix. And then we're going to use that to figure out what to do with each task so you can optimize and create the most value for your clients, for your colleagues, and for yourself. At the end, I'm going to give you a tip of something that using this exact matrix and planning, I actually saved myself a ton of time because I narrowed in on something on the matrix. And then I taught it to my team, and their words, not mine, it saved them an entire day each week. I'll give you that bonus tip at the end. And so let's get into the matrix. All right, so hopefully I see that there might be a glare right there for you. Hopefully it's not too bad. So first thing we're gonna do is, and you can follow along with this, pause it, whatever, is we're gonna list out the different tasks we have. So let's just say you've got meetings. So you've got maybe one-on-one, customer, monthly, maybe you've got implementation, maybe you've got all hands meetings or company meetings, etc. Then let's say for your task you've got email, chat that you've got to respond to. You probably got solutioning, there's team meetings. There's lots of meetings for us success managers. Maybe there's notes, follow-up, there's admin tasks like metrics. So you get the idea. So think through your day and maybe you can add to this list over time. And then all we're gonna do is we're gonna create, the way I do it at least, is this 2x2 matrix. I'm actually gonna make it like a graph. So we've got this way, we've got what we call proficiency. Oh, and we're also, I forget that this is a YouTube video, but I'm also doing the podcast. So I've just listed out, if you're just listening, I've just listed out all the tasks that I have to do in the day. And then I've created a 2x2 matrix. So basically like a big plus sign and then an up y-axis and x-axis. On the x-axis, I put proficiency, and that just means how good you are at the thing. And we're gonna put it over to the right. Meaning the better you are at the thing, then the farther over to the right it should go. And then passion is in the y-axis going up. So the more passionate you are. So in the top right quadrant, this is going to be where you're really good at something and passionate about it. Bottom left is you're bad at it and don't like it. And obviously top left is passion and not proficient. And the bottom right is you're good at it, but you don't enjoy it. So when I went through this, I put a big part of my job was meeting notes. And I was actually good at meeting notes. I did a good job with them, but I didn't enjoy it. So I put that in the bottom right quadrant. Email is probably the same. So we've got one-on-ones. I probably liked and wasn't great at. So that'd be top left quadrant. Solutioning is where I'm good at it and I liked it. Yeah, metrics, I felt bad at it. So let's just use metrics as an example. As bad at and don't like it. And yeah, so that's basically how this works. So you just go through and you list out all your tasks in step 1, and step 2, you put those tasks on your 2x2 matrix. So the underlying idea here is that you create the most value as a human being when you are good at something. That's obvious. But also when you're passionate about it. So that's when your creative juices are going to be flowing. That's when you create if you're like me, a creative type, when you're passionate about something, you enjoy it, you do a good job, like I like to say, you do the last like 5% or 2% of the task that really rounds it out and makes it beautiful. And you do it, maybe this is where excellence comes in. But if you're passionate about it, you're also not going to burn out if you do a good job at sticking, like not overdoing it, but you can really work hard in this quadrant. At the top right, you can really work hard and keep going and do a good job and create a lot of value. In the top left quadrant, you might be passionate about something, but you might not be good at it. And so maybe you should either train up on it or make that into a hobby, or just use that as like a break, some sort of thing on the top left. And then the bottom right, so you're really good at something, but you're not passionate about it. This is especially where you can burn out and where you just feel like you're grinding. And then the bottom left, where you're bad at it and don't like it. Obviously, if you can at all get rid of that, then do. Because that's just like the stuff that nobody enjoys having to do. So what Michael Hyatt calls these is the bottom left quadrant, he calls the drudgery zone. Oh, my blue marker is out. Drudgery. This is the disinterested. What is the top left? So disinterested is when you're good at it, but you don't like it. Distraction zone is when you like it, but you're not good at it. And then a desire zone is when you're good at it and you enjoy it. So once you place all these things on the matrix, think of things that you can do to really hone in on your solution or your desire zone. Actually, for myself, one of the things I was actually really good at was just like project management. Honestly, more than solutioning, for me, project management was overseeing a solution architect or something would have been better for me. So I was good at it, but honestly, solutioning might actually be in the top left because I can help with it, I can oversee it, I can give high level ideas, but creating the like minute detail strategy step by step, that wasn't exactly something I loved. Whereas like my colleagues, I remember one at my previous position, like loved the solutioning part. But for me, like project management came really easy. Things didn't fall through the cracks. I could oversee things, make sure that the customer is happy with the solution and kind of understand from their perspective what they wanted and from my team's perspective how they could deliver. So one idea when I was just looking at this, and I tried to push for it, but it didn't happen, was working with our team to maybe create a solution architect position. So if, let's say I don't love solutioning and I put that in the top left quadrant, that means that's in the bottom right quadrant. So solutioning just meaning like coming up with solutions for clients to their problems. Maybe they needed, like they were doing double entry, paper and digital, and we could look at the system that we had and create a digital process that took out a lot of the error and risk chance and double having to check 2 entries. So how can our software do that? Well, I'd have to go and look at the software and understand their business processes and map out and create a process in our software to solve that problem and then demonstrate it. So for me, step 4, again, step 1 is to list out your tasks. Step 2 is to put them on the passion proficiency matrix. Or technically step 1 is to list out your tasks. Step 2 is to draw the passion proficiency matrix. Step 3 is to place your tasks on the matrix. And then step 4 is to strategize what to do. So for me in particular, project management was my goal. Like I could keep 100, I had at least like 75 projects at one time that I could keep going kind of seamlessly and not let things fall through the cracks. But actually doing any of the work, to be honest, I didn't love. Like I could do the solutions, I could do the note taking, all the communication with email, email I didn't mind, so that might be good and passionate and proficient. So how many people like email? Not many. So that just goes to show you that we're different. And so that's why I was thinking, hey, let's create a solution architect, somebody who I can manage all these projects and clients. And maybe this other person can do the solutions. Like I would give them a problem, a business problem, help them understand everything that's going on. They would use our software to create the solution, come back to me, kind of report in, and we could move that project forward and demonstrate it to the client. And I could have 2 or 3 times the customers because I can oversee all of that super easily. Whereas somebody who's not so good at project management, it really helps just be like, hey, here's what you need to do. And otherwise, a lot of email communication and project management and all that falls through the cracks. So step 4, strategizing. How do we get rid of things out of distraction, disinterested, and drudgery zone? One thing we did for metrics, for example, we have to enter all the metrics at the end of the month for our customer health scores and different things. And one thing we were doing was bringing in Salesforce to streamline that, and also creating spreadsheets that automatically calculated a lot of things. And my manager worked with the directors to figure out what those scores needed to be. And so when you created it, it wasn't as much work. So just maybe in the drudgery zone, that was still something I had to do, but it was ways to automate it and make it easier and take less time. I think that went from like 3 hours a month to like 1 hour a month. So yeah, and then in distraction zone, obviously I have one-on-one. So maybe I think I was good on the receiving end of management's input in my like coaching me, but when I had direct reports, I didn't necessarily know what I was doing. So maybe I could like grow in that because I did like it and I want to pour into people and grow them and encourage them. But how to do that might just take practice. Maybe somebody believing in me and helping me get to proficient at that. So that would have been like something I wouldn't really have thought about directly. All right, so the 5th step is really just to embrace the desire zone. So figuring out like how can you help your team where you're really good at something. And I think one of the other traps is thinking that everybody's like you. So like I said, I actually don't mind getting through email because I've got a process for you. Go to timesmith.work/guide and you can download my free guide and it'll take you step by step through and 7 exhaustive things you can do with email. And then I give you 3 lists that you can store the information in so you can get through your email quickly and be organized. So download that free guide if you're interested. But just thinking that, so I liked email because it feels like, there's definitely work to do in there, but when you get that inbox clear and you've like actually done a good job at every email, communication with customers, colleagues, spam, getting rid of that, whatever it is, but clearing that all out. It's like a clean kitchen at the end of a day. It just feels really great. So I enjoyed that. And like I said, project management, moving a lot of things forward, overseeing a lot of things, but not doing the actual work. Whereas obviously there's other personalities who they just want to do the actual work. Like give me my assignment. I want to just like get in the zone and really dive into something. So don't think that everybody's like you. And maybe there's ways for somebody's disinterested zone might be your desire zone, and you can figure out how to help each other, or use Fiverr, whatever else to get rid of those things, and maybe use AI for notes. Laxis, Laxis, the CEO is really awesome guy. Try that out for automatic notes. I need to get an affiliate link for that because that'd be fun. But all right, so the bonus tip that I wanted to share with you guys, or the teaser I threw out there at the beginning, is there maybe this, I feel like a lot of times as a teacher, I try to sense like, have I overwhelmed my audience? And I feel like I've walked you guys through it kind of step by step, so I don't think you're overwhelmed. And you can kind of look at all of this and figure out, just take a hour, 2 hours just to think about like each thing on your list and go through it and make something happen. But if you are overwhelmed, or if you are just wanting to try this out and don't need to like go through all the details of like getting every single thing figured out with a plan. Like, what am I going to do about metrics and one-on-ones and solutioning and notes, whatever it is. If you want to focus, so here's the pro tip. Focus on one thing that's really gnawing at you. So for me at the time, when I did this, and it was like, I still remember where I had the idea, and it was just like huge and saved my team a day a week, was notes. So when I was thinking through this, because I listened to a podcast from Michael Hyatt, and I was on my way back from Tennessee with a customer, and I was just thinking like, I was thinking through all of these things, and I just kept coming back to notes. So note taking for us was just a really complicated, in-depth process. Obviously, hopefully AI has helped my team with this since, but what we would do is we would meet with a client. There wasn't a ton of like specifics as to what that meant, but then after the call, we would write up notes about the meeting. We would have like each project as like a heading kind of thing, and then we would write like a professional like paragraph or two just describing what had happened. Pretty much everybody, it was like the drudgery zone for notes, or disinterested zone if you were good at it, because it just felt so like unnecessary, because nobody read the notes, and you're doing like, it usually took about an hour or so to write these professional looking notes, like written out in paragraph form. And so everyone just put it off. And so everyone fell behind, and then it was constantly a thing where like, you haven't gotten your notes and you gotta go back and do it from like the last month, and then you forget what you even met about. I had a system where I would like book an hour of my time after my meetings to have note time so nothing would get booked, so I'd always have that time. What happened for us was that we would have an hour meeting with our client. Then we would have for me, I would have an hour of note writing. I mean, not exaggerating, just processing everything, all the like scratch notes that I did and making it a professional look or whatever, would take an hour just to write it out and kind of get it in plain English. And then project management wise, it would take me an hour after the notes to put the actions that I needed in my next action list, which I teach in that guide, and that I mentioned earlier. And sorry, I got distracted because I thought of the night. So in the waiting list, I would put things that I'm waiting on other people for, like just organizing myself project management wise. It would usually take like 45 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe sometimes an hour and a half. And so every meeting I had with a client was 3 hours, because it would take an hour for the meeting, hour for notes, and an hour for project management about. And so I remember listening to this podcast on the way back from Tennessee, and I was just like, what do we do about the notes thing? Because everybody had like thrown out ideas for like literally a decade, because nobody liked it, but it was like legal defensibility, and executive leadership wanted us to have these notes in case anybody ever honestly sued us or whatever it was. So not even sued, but like going back and saying, hey, this is what we talked about, or anything like that. So there were lots of ideas, but nothing had ever worked for how to make these notes less cumbersome. So I thought about it and I couldn't figure it out. I just thought about it really hard. I listened to this podcast. I was like, this has to change. And I just let it go. So I'm driving back from Tennessee, like an hour goes by. I'm just kind of like listening to whatever, driving down the highway. And all of a sudden, like the idea just comes to me. And that's kind of like a tip as well. Just if you need to come up with solutions for complicated problems, there's this method where you think really hard about it and you come up with like all the different options you can, and you really focus your brain power like on problem solving. But then like you can almost feel like it's like you've done everything you can thinking wise, and so just let it go and give it some time. And that's when you wake up with the idea, or you're in the shower and the idea comes, or you're driving or walking, whatever it is, and just like it just comes to you. And that's like, I think that's an actual method for coming up with solutions. So think really hard about something, then give it some space. So anyways, that's what I did. And so the idea that came to me during that time was, all right, so the notes are this like paragraph form. We have this project management like work that has to happen of who's assigned to what. That takes another hour. And then during the meeting, honestly, we weren't super structured. Like it could be what'd you have for lunch all the way to like negotiating $1 million contract or something. So it was like, and a lot of times there wasn't like a lot of momentum in those meetings. We didn't necessarily always know what to talk about. So basically we hit like 2 birds, 3 birds, 4 birds with 1 stone. What I thought of was take the project management stuff I was doing, where I had like each project that we were working on, the next action and waiting, and just make that customer friendly, like viewable in like a Word document. And then instead of just kind of talking to each other, we would during the meeting, we would bring up that document and we would look it over during the meeting. So it would keep us structured during the meeting. We would take notes in real time about decisions that we were making on those bullet points. It was in bullet point form instead of paragraph form, which just made it a lot easier to fill out. And it had all the actions that were needed to be done and when they were going to be done, the timelines for things, about when somebody was going to get back on a task. And then by the end of the call, you actually were done with your notes because you did them during the call. And then that piece of paper or that document actually could just be kind of your project management file. I would usually kind of update things in my actual project management software too, but it was already figured out. So it was just like as simple as copying and pasting into my project management software, which like could take 5 minutes. So management reviewed, we tested it out with some clients and asked how they liked it. Management reviewed it and everybody okayed it. And so basically what happened was instead of this paragraph form, a meeting that wasn't super structured, a paragraph form of written down what you had just talked about that everybody put off and hated doing and nobody looked at. And then a like kind of managing your projects and tasks after that and writing that all down. We transitioned it to all of it happening in just that 1 hour meeting with the client. So that 3 hour stretch of time was condensed to like an hour plus 5 minutes after the call. And that's what saved my team a day a week because all of us could get our notes done in 5 to 10 minutes after the call. We were more organized, our topics were on, our calls were more on point, and that increased customer health because they were happier with the meetings as well, and it got more movement and follow through and accountability to make projects happen. And so it was a couple months later that 2 or 3 of my teammates came and like said, one in particular said, "Rob, that saved me a day a week. Friday used to be blocked out just for catching up on notes, and now I don't even need that at all. So I have a whole day back." And then a couple others agreed with him. So that's how we did it. I looked at the passion proficiency matrix, or freedom compass, as full focus, or Michael Hyatt calls it. I zeroed in on that one thing that was really bothering me because 3 hours times every client times every month. So I ended up saving, I think it was like 2 hours per client, 15 clients at enterprise level. So saved me 30 hours a week. Plus it was the stuff I wasn't passionate about. And we had better meetings, more happier customers. People actually reviewed it because it was a lot easier to look at than the paragraph form. So leadership and executive leadership also would actually look at it, including at the customer. So everybody was happy. It was legally defensible, looked good, and we could move forward from there. So that's an example of how to use the passion proficiency matrix. In conclusion, we've got step 1, list out every single task that you do for your role. Step 2, draw the passion proficiency matrix, which is like a big plus sign for a 2x2 matrix. And I like to do a y-axis and an x-axis on bottom and the left side. Passion would be on the left or y-axis. With the more passionate you are, the higher it should be on your graph. And proficiency is on your x-axis. The more proficient, the better you are at the thing, then the farther it should be on the right of the matrix. And then you start just drawing out step 3 is putting your tasks in the matrix. So is it a task that you are bad at and don't like? That's the drudgery zone. If you are good at it, that's the bottom left. If you are good at it, but you don't enjoy it, that's the disinterested zone, bottom right. If you're passionate about it, you really enjoy it, but you're not good at it, that's the distraction zone. And then the desire zone is when you're good at it and you enjoy it. The tip here is not to think that everybody's like you. And so how can you create synergies on your team, or outsource or bring in, delegate, whatever you need to do, automate different things. And so step 4 is just strategizing. How do we move as much of your work as possible to that desire zone? Everybody's working in their desire zone, then it's going to be just how much more powerful of an organization and a team is that going to be. And then even with your customers, what are they good at and enjoy? And then use those skills. And then step 5, or really like the pro tip, is you can just start out with like, what's that one thing that's really gnawing at your time, your energy, and you know it's not in your desire zone? What can you do? Get some people in the room, or just think really hard on it and give it some time, and maybe that egg will crack and that chick will come out. The great idea for what you need to do with that thing that's really taking away your energy and time in the drudgery, disinterested, or distraction zone. And then just implement that. Go do it. So that's your follow-up take home today. One thing I keep coming to mind that I want to know is in the distraction zone. Maybe you're not good at it, but you're passionate about it. Then that might not be something to delegate or get rid of. It might be something to lean into. Like, what if you like coding on the side, or like I did SQL scripts for my customers? That would have been a task I should have put up here. At first, I was very bad at it, but I really enjoyed it. And so with some extra time that I had, it wouldn't take precedence over the desire zone stuff, or things like priorities. But when I had that time, I would invest in learning about it more and trying it more. And it eventually became a desire zone thing where I was really good at it and enjoyed it a lot, and even just taught my team how to do it, so more and more people could do the SQL stuff. So that's something to think about with the distraction zone, is maybe it's something actually to lean into. So really think about each one, and I think probably drudgery and disinterested zone are probably things you can delegate or get rid of, automate however you can. I doubt those things are going to somehow become your desire zone, but if there is a way to maybe enjoy something more, whatever that looks like. For me, I need to get into a coffee shop or a creative space when I'm writing this content for you guys like this. So sometimes those sorts of things I enjoy the creative process, but only when I'm in an environment that's creative and stimulating in those senses. So maybe something that's sometimes disinterested zone, maybe you just need to get to a coffee shop and block everything off and it becomes something you enjoy. I'm not sure. But that last tip, especially distraction zone, don't think that just because it's not in your desire zone, you need to get rid of it. Just think logically about each task in each zone and figure out what can you do to get it towards that desire zone, because that's where you're going to create the most value and have the most fulfillment. And it'll be best for your colleagues, customers, yourself, all of that stuff. So that's step 4, strategize. And then the pro tip is maybe just focus on one big task issue, implement a new strategy, and then come back to this and figure out what's next to make better. All right, thanks guys for listening to this episode of the Timesmith podcast, where we went over the passion of proficiency matrix, or the freedom compass, as Michael Hyatt says. And yeah, I think that's everything. All right, talk to you guys next week.
Play the game,
thanks.
win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind.